especially with Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. It's a universal relationship, universal bond that we're talking about, which is the mother's bond. I've seen so many people who watched my movie, not only women, I think men have got so moved and cried and felt like emotional. This movie made me think about those millions of people who are living abroad who might have gone through this prejudices or after the trailer released, I was hearing a lot of chatter about what these people have actually been through. Like this kind of conversation never happened. I'm actually quite a movie buff.
Okay.
And I love watching cinema, not only from our country, but I watch cinema from all over the world.
Rani Mukerji, welcome to Bollywood Hungama. Good to see you always.
Thank you.
Rani, exciting time. Before the release is always exciting. People like us come, we discuss your movie. How has this phase changed over the years, firstly?
I think this phase will always be the same because we as actors try to do our best in our characters. And then we meet you all my colleagues from the media, from critics, my audiences who watch my work, and then they give me a report card and tell me what they thought of my film, what they thought of my performance, and it's nice because these are probably the reasons how we grow as actors, how we grow in our field of work, because these conversations are most important. These I would say interviews are important because it connects us back to understanding what people are actually feeling about our work. We can't live in isolation. We can't work in isolation. As actors, we are meant to do a certain film. We're meant to do our part because we want to know what audiences feel, whether they are getting connected, whether they're not. So it's a very, very important time for us, I would say, at least for me as an actor.
Right. For us also, we get to meet you. And also, it's easy to give a report card and feedback to an actor like you who's so consistent always. Like, Rani, I watched the movie yesterday and that was my first reaction that, you are consistent with your acting. First part of the question is, how do you do that? Like, do you watch a lot of things to make sure your acting is always there? Or what helps you with that?
I think I'm actually quite a movie buff.
Okay.
And I love watching cinema, not only from our country, but I watch cinema from all over the world.
Right.
Because that is what gives me, I would say, inspiration to go out there and, compete with people across the globe.
Right.
I think that is very important because a healthy competition is always necessary to kind of push you or propel you further, because if you keep competing with yourself, there might come a point where you might stagnate. But it's important to see other people work. It's important to see other people's work and things that people are appreciating today, things that people are wanting to see. So these are important discussions, conversations that are very important for we actors to be in touch with, because this is what helps us or inspires us to do even better. When you see our films in India, we have such diversity in our films, and we have films coming from every region. So I think those also inspire us because there is storytelling in every part of our country and different cultures everywhere, different stories, and they all amalgamate to one thing that we are making a film at the end of the day. We are wanting to tell stories in different ways, in different languages. But at the end of the core of each of that is we are telling a human story at the end of the day. And human story is something, especially with Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, it's a universal relationship, universal bond that we're talking about, which is the mother's bond. And I think it's something that not only will connect to say a Bengali or an Indian or a South Indian or a North Indian, but it's going to connect with people around the world, irrespective of which country they come from, which community they come from. It will connect with everybody.
Rani, as you grow and you all become veteran and senior actors, you all are in a position of calling, doing what you all want to do. You're in a position to choose. Suppose you get 5 scripts. What is it that you look forward to and say, this is the one I will do?
I think for me, what really propels me to do a film, like I would say in case in point, Mrs. Chatterjee, since we are doing this interview, when Nikhil called me up early in Jan in 2021, it was in the midst of the pandemic.
Right.
We were all in a very different headspace. We were all very stressed. We didn't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. There was a lot of fear that we all felt, And when Nikhil called and spoke to me about this story, I actually thought he was lying to me because I was in disbelief of what the actuality of the story is and what this woman actually went through. And I hung up the phone on him and I actually started to Google the case.
Right.
And what I realized is that a lot of Indian media had picked it up in 2011. 11, 12. And what amazed me is that me being an Indian citizen, I never got to know about this case.
Right.
And I realized that there would be so many people like me who might not be knowing about this case and who might not be knowing that this is an actual story and that something like this can happen to an Indian outside the country. And that made me think and that made me decide that this is the story that I want to tell, this is the story that I want to do, this is the story that I want a larger audience and it should reach a larger audience. And it's a story about a mother's courage, love, resilience, strength. It's also about love for your own country. It's so many emotions layered in this one film.
Right.
So for me, it was very important that as an actor, we can't go out there and just speak our minds. We can speak our minds through a film.
Right.
Like the fact that I chose to do this film is because I think maybe somewhere down the line as a mother, I could understand the pain. At the same time, I could not put myself in her place.
Right, yeah.
Because it's a very disturbing and dark place to be in.
Right.
You can't even imagine
Don't
like
want to
something like
imagine
that can happen to you. So for me, it was important that this mother's story, which is about hope, which is about, and in Sagarika's case, it was easier for me to do because it's a story of a happy ending as well.
That's important.
But there are so many parents who are still not
struggling.
reunited with their children. And that pains me.
Right.
You know.
You met Sagarika. That was an emotional moment.
Yeah.
We saw, you were teary-eyed at that
Yeah.
time. What goes through your mind when you meet an incredibly powerful woman like her, who was few days ago just an ordinary woman, but when this is the thing about motherhood, it can, you can ready to fight the world.
Absolutely. For me, I think it was a moment of catharsis that kind of completed for me. It was a circle. Because for the last 2 years, it has just been about playing Devika, channeling Sagarika's emotions through Devika's character, knowing about her, seeing her in a lot of Zoom chats because I kind of spoke with Ashima because Ashima was very involved with Sagarika and her story.
Okay.
Chatting about Sagarika, seeing a lot of videos where she has spoken her mind, spoken about what emotions she went through as a person when she was going through this case. So it was that eventuality of meeting her in person, and before that they showed me her reaction to the film. So that also made me feel emotional because she was probably going through her life's journey while watching the film. So that moved me actually, that she had to relive that time again.
Right.
So that was very, very emotional.
Right. Did you meet her earlier as well? Did you want to meet? No. Did you feel like you should, or you didn't want to?
No, because I didn't want people to try and compare the real Sagarika and Devika's character. Right. I wanted to channel an emotion of a mother because for me then it became Devika and Devika's story and her struggle.
Correct.
And I wanted each and every mother to relate with Devika's character. So I didn't want it to be only that one person because Sagarika's pain is also a pain that any mother can feel. It's not only her,
right.
So Devika was representing those millions of women who are mothers and who feel the same thing towards their children.
Right. Can any body, an organization in any country decide for this mother the way she's feeding is wrong, the way she's treating is wrong? Or how do you see this when you did all this?
I think for me it was quite an eye-opener because when you talk about your friends or cousins who are living abroad, you never get to hear this kind of chatter.
Right.
Whether they are going through trials or tribulations, what are the rules and regulations that they have to follow being citizens of other countries.
Right.
because we are so Indian and we are used to our Indian way of growing, and for us it's a very natural thing. Nobody questions us in India, but this movie made me think about those millions of people who are living abroad who might have gone through this prejudices, or what they must have gone through, because after the trailer released I was hearing a lot of chatter about what these people have actually been through. Like, this kind of conversation never happened, because you always feel that the grass is greener on the other side, and you always feel that everything is so hunky-dory, but the reality is probably something else, and it's so difficult for people to manage. But some people adapt to the new way of living, and some people are so attached to their roots that they find it quite a challenge to probably adapt, like in the case of maybe Mrs. Chatterjee's character. So it is something that to think for, and it's a thing to kind of wonder that what a mother does with a child in the confines of her home, is that supposed to be questioned? Which I don't think can, because I would not like somebody to tell me how I would raise my child, because that is something instinctively I feel for my child, and that's how I will kind of treat her or give her that upbringing.
It's a tricky case, right? Some people may not be doing the right things and exploiting kids and using, I don't know, language or something like that. That may not be. So it's such a tricky case. I think every case should be looked differently.
Every case should be looked upon with what that case is deserving. And I hope and pray that justice is served sooner or later in these cases.
Rani, you've played this so well. There are many different kind of scenes. Sometimes I'm also watching and thinking, this is not what she should be doing. And then you realize that what a turmoil she's going through. Her kids are being taken away. How do you see this character? Is she at fault anywhere? Like, she's a mother, How do you describe all this?
So I think the monologue in my film that I give at the end, that main buri maa hu ya achhi maa hu, at the end of the day I'm a mother. So it's like every mother is judged for how she raises her children. And it's not only judgment from outside, her mother-in-law will judge her, her own mother will judge her, her friends will judge her. So it's not something that is only confined to this story. I think in our day-to-day lives, our mother-in-laws are busy telling the daughter-in-laws how they should raise their children. Mothers tell their daughters that how they should raise their kids. So it's always going to be a dichotomy, because with every generation, there is a generational shift that comes. Parenting changes with each generation. So it is something that is a constant change, and one has to kind of adapt to that.
You think we judge very easily? We'll just see and say, "Arey, dekho kya kar rahi hai apne bacche ko." Do you think that's what we should firstly stop? That
I think we should correct ourselves, because at the end of the day, a mother knows what's best for a child.
Also there were two politicians, female politicians played a big role, like Brinda Karat, Sushma Swaraj ji. You think we also need a lot more women in these kind of powerful positions, because they are the best to understand another woman?
Yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't only say women. I'm sure there are a lot of men also who do understand it. Like I've seen so many people who watched my movie, not only women, I think men have got so moved and cried and felt like emotional. So I think to feel these kind of emotions, you don't need to be a woman or a man. You need to be human.
Fair enough. Right.
If you are a human being, if you have emotions in you, you will like feel for a situation like this. You don't really have to be gender specific to feel a certain emotion.
Also, while we are close to the release, you just said that there was so much news about it online, but it does sometimes take a movie to the story to spread and go to more people, to create more awareness. You think films are a good medium for that?
Yes, of course. And if it's a good movie, then I'm sure it does make a difference, because it inspires more and more people to watch the film, and when they watch the film, they realize what the film is about. If they don't give the film a chance, they wouldn't know what the film is going to be about. So I think giving films a chance is equally important as rooting for a cause, because films at the end of the day are a medium of entertainment, but it does not constitute to only entertainment in a particular way. Like, you can entertain the audience by making them emotional, you can entertain them by giving them an action film, you can entertain them by giving them a musical or a comedy or a horror. So genres keep changing. But as long as you are true to a genre, and if you can deliver in terms of that genre, then it kind of entertains.
I hope this takes the story forward. My last question is, Rani, this is not for you, someone like you, I could imagine that this is not just another film.
Yeah.
Do these films and characters stay with you longer than you would want? And when you go back home, do they play on your mind a lot?
I think in case of Devika's character, I think it was Sagarika throughout my subconscious from the time I heard about a story, it was something that was always there subconsciously.
Right.
While I talk to you, she's there subconsciously in my mind. I can't take her away from me, but yes, it is important for my well-being, also my mental health being, that I'm not so consumed in it because it might be a very, very difficult feeling to feel.
Right.
Because it is not a normal emotion to feel.
Right, of course.
It's not.
Right.
It's an extraordinary emotion.
It is, yeah. Rani, whatever your process is, you continue to entertain us, and this was also absolutely incredible. So yet another performance. We look forward to what you do next as well. But for now, just hope people go and watch this in the cinemas as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rani. Thank you so much.